How did ancient humans travel the world? No car, no road, no map, just your feet, the sun overhead, and roughly 2 million years of practice. Your great-great, say it about 4,000 more times, grandparents walked out of Africa, crossed open ocean, and eventually climbed onto the back of a wild horse and held on. The distances they covered would break most people today. The tools they used were almost nothing, and the reason they kept moving is weirder and more human than you'd expect. This is how ancient humans traveled the world. Right now, you travel in a metal box on wheels. You check a screen before you go anywhere. Ancient humans had none of that. The earliest long-distance travel on record traces back roughly 70,000 years when Homo sapiens, that's us, began pushing out of sub-Saharan Africa. But the urge to move started long before that. Homo erectus, an earlier human relative, stockier and heavier-browed, left Africa nearly 2 million years ago, with no tools beyond a sharpened rock. Fossils of these early humans have been found in Georgia, the country, not the US state, in Java, in China, and across the Mediterranean rim. These weren't accidents. These were deliberate journeys, following game unmapped, the herds of animals they hunted for food. Following rivers, following coastlines. The coastline route is actually one of the most studied migration paths in all of archaeology. It offered food from the sea, fresh water from river mouths, and a clear direction. Keep the water on one side and walk. That walk eventually reached Australia, roughly 65,000 years ago, on foot and by water, across open ocean gaps that were real, even then, before metal. Before writing, before wheels, just legs, courage, and hunger. The evidence we have comes from cave sites, stone tools, fossilized campsites, and ancient DNA. Genetic fingerprints left in bones pulled from the earth. Every single one of those bones tells a story of movement, not settlement, movement. These people were built to go, and for most of human history, going was the point. So how did they actually do it? Start with the body. The Paleolithic human, the old Stone Age hunter, had leg bones measurably denser and more robust than yours. Studies of skeletal remains show lower limb bone density consistent with walking 15 to 20 kilometers a day. Every single day. That's roughly the distance from one end of a city to the other, daily. They didn't jog, they walked, but with a purpose. Groups of 20 to 50 people moved together, what archaeologists call a band, a family unit without a fixed home. Their knowledge of routes was passed down by story, not map. Memorized rivers, star positions, wind patterns, animal trail signs. Then came the water problem. Some crossings could be waded, shallow, slow rivers, others couldn't. The first watercraft humans built weren't boats, they were rafts, bundles of lashed-together logs or reeds. The oldest solid evidence of watercraft comes from about 50,000 years ago when humans crossed the Wallace Line, a deep ocean channel in Southeast Asia, to reach Australia. Even at the lowest sea levels of the last ice age, that crossing was at least 90 kilometers of open water, out of sight of land, both ways. They built rafts and they went anyway. Now skip ahead about 40,000 years. The Eurasian steppe, a vast open grassland stretching from Hungary to Mongolia, was full of wild horses. For most of human prehistory, horses were just another animal to eat. Horse bones found in ancient camp middens, ancient trash heaps, are butchered, not ridden. Then, around 3500 BCE, about 5,500 years ago, something changed on the Pontic steppe, the grasslands north of the Black Sea. People there, the bowtie culture, a group of early horse herders, started keeping horses alive instead of just eating them. We know this because of milk fat residue found inside ancient clay pots. Mare's milk, fermented into an early version of what is still made on the steppe today. And then someone climbed on. Riding changed everything about distance. A walking human covers roughly 15 kilometers a day. A person on horseback covers 60 diaza in the same time. The steppe peoples of the late Stone Age, the Yamnaya culture, spread their language, their DNA, and their culture across Europe and Asia in what was, in geological terms, an eye blink. Riding didn't just speed up travel, it rewired what the world looked like. Here's the part that nobody really talks about. These journeys weren't heroic expeditions, they were desperate ones. Climate was the engine of most ancient migration. When the Sahara dried out roughly 70,000 years ago, humans didn't leave Africa for adventure. They left because staying meant starving. The same pattern repeated at the end of the last ice age, around 12,000 years ago. Ice sheets retreating, new land opening up. Humans flooded into North America across the Bering Land Bridge, a wide flat strip of land that is now underwater between Russia and Alaska. Within roughly 2,000 years of entering North America, humans had reached the southern tip of South America, 12,000 miles on foot, across jungles, deserts, high-altitude mountains. Now here's the really strange part. Those ancient walkers were not wandering randomly. Research into modern hunter-gatherer groups, people who still live this way, shows they carry a mental map of territory spanning hundreds of kilometers. They know where water is in dry season. They know where the fruit trees fruit. They track game by reading the land itself. Broken branches, soft ground prints, the direction grass is bent. This is navigation without instruments. It's a cognitive skill, a brain skill that took hundreds of thousands of years to evolve. And you still have it. GPS has just covered it up. There's one more twist. For most of prehistory, long-distance travel was almost entirely done by people under 30 because the journey was physically brutal. The elderly and the very young were carried on backs, on stretched hide litters, dragged between two poles. We know this because of skeletons found mid-migration with severe arthritis and healed injuries, people who could not have survived alone. But they did survive because these groups carried their injured with them. Across continents, they didn't just survive the journey, they carried each other through it. Every road you drive on was walked first. Every sea route was rafted first. Every mountain pass was climbed in bare feet. The bones in your feet evolved specifically for long-distance walking. The arches in your feet are a 2-million-year-old long-haul travel technology. Your inner ear holds balance-sensing structures shaped by 100,000 years of rough terrain. Your brain still runs a spatial mapping system no app has matched. The ancient humans who crossed the Wallace Line didn't know they were doing something remarkable. They were just trying to get somewhere. That impulse, the need to see what's on the other side, is exactly what filled every continent on the planet with human beings. The road trip didn't start with a car. It started with bare feet, a sharp stick, and somewhere worth going. You are what happens when a species refuses to stop walking.